of contact. And now, especially with lenders being busy as they are, things seem to be taking as longer and longer. My clients are signing in 30 minutes, but then the funding's taking an hour and a half. So a lot of times the clients will just leave, and the closers will just be stacking up closings and then fund them all later because nobody really cares because nobody's sitting waiting at the closing.
Yeah. Well, I think there's going to be a lot of, positive changes especially with the city. Are you a city? Do you work mostly with city brokers or?
Yeah, most of my work is in the city, even though I live out in the burbs.
Yeah, because, we do all our own showings. For the most part, lockboxes aren't a part of our formula in working. And now we have to figure out, how do you do safe open houses? We're going to learn a lot in the city of, I don't want to say working less, but working smarter, like the suburban brokers do.
Exactly. Well, the suburban brokers have been doing it for years, but that's always been kind of a knock on them.
Yeah.
That's what a lot of city brokers do, is say, well, we go to our showings.
Right. No.
But nobody will complain. I found nobody complained when I say, I can't go to the closing, we'll do it a day in advance. And everyone has been on board with that. And I've talked to lots of other lawyers, most who are not going to closings. And no one's really had any pushback. So at some point we will.
Are you a proponent of the COVID addendum?
Yeah, I like when it's there, and I have actually incorporated it into my letter. It's a little harsh. The time frames are a little bit harsh, but I would rather have it there. But my thought is, if a deal blows up and it's truly COVID related, right? And we've had some deals that fell apart last minute because people lost their jobs. They get an email the day before, hey, you're being fired tomorrow. What do you do about that? You're outside the mortgage contingency. I feel bad for the sellers, but the buyers had no control over it.
Right.
So I like having it there because it takes the onus off of the lawyers to have to fight it, because it becomes, it happens. And that was one of the questions I was going to ask realtors is, how are you prepping your clients, especially your sellers, up front to go, look, some things may happen, these are weird times. Just because we have a contract doesn't mean it's going to go to fruition, and you got to be patient. You guys thought about that? You've been doing that?
So go ahead, Michael. Go ahead.
Well, I'll say, Sam or Molly, we haven't heard from you guys yet. Sam?
Oh, hey, how's it going? I had a little trouble logging in, but I'm here and feeling good. Nice to see everyone.
You too.
I guess, talking about managing seller expectations, I'm pretty transparent with my sellers, and I said it's not a perfect world to be a seller here in Chicago. The buyer really has a lot of contingencies baked into the offer. So you're somewhat vulnerable being a seller, because you go under contract, and the buyer has the opportunity to do their inspection and attorney review, and then they also have their mortgage contingency. So I try to be overly redundant with my sellers and just let them know that even in the bottom of the ninth inning, when we're holding $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 in earnest money, it's going to be very difficult for that money to get to land in your hands, because the buyers aren't going to relinquish their contingencies or mortgage contingencies. So please don't feel that if the deal blows apart that you're going to walk away with this earnest money. You're going to be left holding the bag, and we're going to have to reinvent ourselves and start all over again. So it's not an ideal scenario, whether it's COVID or non-COVID, for a seller here in Chicago. So I think just managing those expectations up front is what I try to do to avoid any drama or added stress in my life.
Thank you.
Let me jump into, Barbara, there's a little bit of feedback on your phone, so I took the initiative to mute you, but just feel free and unmute yourself when you're talking, because it was just kind of, did everybody else hear it, or was it just me?
No one
Okay.
put Barbara in the corner, Andy.
It's actually Barbara Galaxy S10, which is a cool phone. But no, so I mean, yeah, this is super organic. This is just time for us to talk shop, glean insights from each other, super informal. We should have possibly a lender and somebody who's very experienced in the insurance field opening up. But if you're not speaking, just kind of mute yourself, because there is a little bit of feedback. And yeah, just continue the convo. Obviously, if there is a 19-second awkward pause, I have some kind of questions that'll help foster conversation. But I mean, this is just your time to, I try to set these up because you're going to learn more from each other versus, me giving a canned message or something. So, Jonathan obviously is a great resource, been an attorney forever, was referred to us by multiple realtors. Eric, how's it going, man? Yeah, Eric, well, I'll give a chance for Eric to introduce himself, but he's a little late hopping on. But this is just your guys' time, so feel free and talk shop. And I'm just kind of curious myself. I learn more from you guys just on these calls than doing my day-to-day operations. So we'll pick up from where you left off.
So I want to ask Jonathan a question. So I had a situation where within 5 days of the closing, the buyer died of COVID. We didn't have the COVID addendum. And I thought it was awful that my sellers wanted the money, the earnest money, but then they had already moved out, and their life had already taken place in the new home. And so they did settle on 50-50. And after thinking about it, I thought, okay, at first I was like, how could you do that? But for a seller, is it wise to have that COVID addendum? I could see for the buyer, but why would a seller want the COVID addendum?
Well, I'm actually going through a situation right now which the COVID addendum helps my seller. My sellers have decided that they'll never find a place to move to because of COVID, and they want to kill a deal after attorney approval. And that's the real short version of it. There's a lot more going on there, but with the COVID rider, they could make the argument that it's a stretch for them to blame it on COVID, but they could use that. So probably not very often the COVID rider is going to help the seller, because the sellers, for the most part, right, they get a contract, they know they're planning on moving, that they have things worked out. They don't have a lot of contingencies they have to overcome other than maybe finding another place to live. Whereas the buyers, if they're working, they have to keep working in order to get the mortgage. And, the example from earlier, where you have a buyer who loses their job after the mortgage contingency, the COVID rider is the only thing that's going to save them. And I know there's some attorneys, a handful, that put a provision in their letters, which I usually reject, which says if the buyer loses their job or dies or becomes disabled prior to closing, they can cancel the contract. In theory, I would like that as a buyer's attorney, but as a seller's attorney, I would never agree to it, because it's, it could be a little open-ended. And while not trying to be completely heartless, and to your example of, somebody dying of COVID, nobody wants to be the bad guy in that situation. So again, the COVID rider helps so that we don't have to make that decision, which sometimes is a good thing, to not have to worry about having to fight with the other side over something that you feel really awkward about trying to argue your position, even if it's the correct legal position.
Do you think there's going to be Jonathan, do you think there's going to be some kind of rider that comes out, let's say after COVID's done, that's going to be similar now that all these kind of exceptions have been made for COVID? Like, there were people who are able to get out of deals for losing jobs or various things like that?
Hmm. Well, I mean, that'd be up to you guys, right? Because the COVID writers was produced by Carr. I do think that attorneys are going to keep some semblance of it, try to make it more like, commercial contracts. Those are familiar with force majeure language, which would basically be if a COVID related event occurs or government shuts down or anything, outside of, man-made control, then the contract could be terminated. We've never used them in residential deals, but I'm starting to see attorneys put that into their letters.
Hmm.
So I think, yes, every time there's a change in the market or a change in the law, even if it works itself out or it goes away, we usually keep some semblance of that in our letters. So we still have language in there about TRID from when TRID first came down. What was that, 4 years ago now or longer? And there's still a provision most of us have in our letter about, if we can't close because we don't make the 3 days because of TRID, that we can postpone the closing. I've had it happen like once in the last 3 years, but we still keep it in there. So our letters just keep on growing. So even if you guys don't throw something out there, I think a lot of us probably will, because our attorney approval letters are really driven by the fact that we're overly paranoid about getting sued for not having something in there.
Attorneys don't want to get sued? Weird.
Yeah, well, my experience in my years of doing this is the only people that ever actually get sued when a deal goes bad are the attorneys. So
Man.
You guys may have had other experiences, but yeah, so we're there to protect ourselves and everyone else in the deal, of course.
Melanie, anything to add? Quiet over there.
No, I haven't used the COVID rider in a couple months, so I don't know. I can't really speak to it, but I mostly am on the buyer side, and I feel like all those buyers are like super protected by their financing contingency, so it hasn't really come up. Knock on wood.
Yeah. Let's hope not.
Yeah.
Especially since I believe I have a couple of deals with you where I'm on the sell side, so let's hope your buyers keep their
Oh,
job.
really? That's funny.
Have you guys had to have different conversations with your sellers regarding the offers you're receiving, depending on the financing you're seeing from the buyers that are coming in? Like maybe taking an offer with a financing, maybe it's not the best offer, but the financing is the best and maybe the most guaranteed to close, as opposed to something else you've seen that's come through the table?
I've had multiple offer situations where I had one that was better, but the other one was a little bit less, and they were 40% down versus 10%. And they, with these drive-by appraisals, and I questioned, will the appraisal be an issue? And we went with the 40 because it was a sure thing. And when I have multiple offers, I try to get as is so that I don't have those inspection items. So yes, to answer your question, I think if more earnest money down is better than a 5%, 10% buyer in today's world if the prices are fairly close.
Since you mentioned as is, Barbara, one of the questions I wanted to ask everyone today was, what is your definition of as is?
So if I'm writing for, I don't know, I don't work with as many buyers, my daughter does, but my definition of as is, and I'm very blunt about it, when I say I want, my sellers coming back as is, only ask if there's a hole in the roof or if there's something majorly dangerous. As is, and especially with multiple offers, what I say is, I have 5 people waiting for this property. So just walk away because offer number 2 is knocking on the door. And they listen to me. So you know what, I've been able to, on the list side, keep my as is pretty as is. On the buy side, as I said, I do buyers, but my daughter mostly handles our buyers, and she's an attorney. So I don't know necessarily if I would want my client to put in as is, but there are those brokers who tell their clients, you know, as is, but we can still ask for stuff. I like an attorney that says it's as is, thank you. No.
Yeah, that's my biggest pet peeve in the industry, and I have this conversation daily with clients and with brokers. I grew up, I went, you know, through law school believing that as is meant as is. You have one option, you have two options after you're done with an inspection on an as is deal. You either move forward as is, or you cancel the contract. And I've always seen people that, you know, are like, well, it's as is, but we want to ask for things. And I'm seeing more of it now. And I don't know if I'm just paying more attention because I'm, you know, sitting at home thinking about these things more, or if it's because now multiple offers, but it's COVID. So people are saying as is, but then they're not really, you know, following through on it. And so I was just curious how everyone else in the industry handled it, because I always have to have the conversation with clients and say, look, you signed an as-is deal. That means something. You know, that's like me going back to the, you know, seller right now and saying, we want the property for 10 grand less, even though we negotiated this price without a valid reason. So, but I know that that seems to be controversial with some people.
I think the as-is thing makes buyers so nervous, and I know that's not new per se, but like I feel like every deal in the past couple months, the sellers have come back and said, hey, are you guys willing to do as is? And then we have to coach our buyers of like what that means and like calm them down, because they get so nervous. They think the seller's hiding something and they just like freak out. So I don't know. I hate it when that's how sellers respond and ask us to do as is, because I feel like it just puts a bad taste in everyone's mouth, but I understand why they do. But yeah, I think it's just tough.
It depends on what side you're on.
Yeah.
It depends who you're representing. Here's something new. So if any of you have an offer against me, what I did, I tried it this week and it was really good. So I had a pretty hot property. I thought I'd get multiple offers. So I get somebody who saw it on Friday. My open house was on Sunday. And an offer comes in, and I was very upfront that we're not accepting offers. They wrote the offer for $5,000 over asking. So I went back and I said, you know, my seller will take $510. And, you know, I was able to not have all those multiple offers that you have to weed through and hope you pick the right one. And so, you know, it was interesting, and they listened. So that's a little trick for all of you, except if you're against me. Don't do it against me.
But there'd have to be the right property for something like that to happen, though.
Yes, for sure, Michael.
Yeah, I like it though.
I mean, it's worth trying and see.
Oh,
you know, yeah.
Eric, what are you seeing on the insurance side of things?
What's up, Mike? Hi, everybody. So yeah, I'm Eric. I'm sorry I was a little late. I was having some tech issues. I thought I could log on my computer, and State Farm said no. So I work for State Farm, and I'm a good. I know a couple of you, but yeah, from the insurance front, I mean, not much has really changed on our end. We haven't had, you know, just from a referral standpoint, like just the influx of our kind of normal business for like the spring and summer peaks. We haven't really seen that yet. So my question for you, for, you know, everyone on this call that's a realtor is just, you know, how are your numbers kind of been through COVID, and what are you looking at, and what are you predicting kind of for this year and going forward, as, you know, some of the economic impact of this is still a year out, 2 years out. I would love to learn more about that from you guys.
Good question.
I'm probably the oldest one here and been through different times of bad times. So I think, and everybody who's a realtor, please chime in. I mean, I've had busy times in the past. I have not had this past weekend was like somebody said, you better buy the house because the end of the world is coming. and everybody bought the houses. And can you hear me? Oh. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Oh, and I'm interested to see what other people are doing. I don't want to be gloom and doom, but Sam, you've been around this for a long time. I'm fearful that the bottom's going to fall out. We can't have this frenzy. I know the rates are low, but they were low a couple months ago. It's madness. And at some point we're going to have, I really believe, short sales. We're going to have foreclosures from the people who don't get their jobs back. And this is a temporary, I feel, boost. And you got to take it when it comes, because we saw with the pandemic, it could end tomorrow. And so I don't think this is going to continue, but it is like, it's crazy busy, crazy. And I manage, and the people in the office, they don't have time for themselves. They don't know how to handle this. So I'd be interested also to hear what other people see happening.
For sure. Appreciate that, Barbara.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Well, Barbara, for myself, you know, I'm seeing the same kind of, I don't know if I call it a frenzy, but it's just been a fast pace that seems to be somewhat controlled and working at a good cadence. And I guess the expression is, when it's time to make hay, you make hay, right? You buckle up and you ride it as long as you can. So that's kind of been my mentality, that I'm just head down, and I've been grinding. I've been grinding since pretty much, well, my entire career has been a grind. But for me personally, I think I rolled up my sleeves right when the pandemic hit, and I was just out the forefront, you know, client facing 2 weeks into the pandemic, where a lot of other people were somewhat on the sidelines, which is fine. And I kind of used that opportunity to to set myself up for time for the months to come.
What do you think the months to come are, Sam, though? What do you, if you had the crystal ball, which we'd all like it to be positive, what do you think is going to happen in the future? Or do you just take day by day, and when it happens, and then you work with it?
Yeah, so my mentality is more of a day by day philosophy, where it's just head down. It's triage, you know, whether it's dealing with clients or email, whatever's in front of me, I'm dealing with. And that's been my approach. So I've been able to really manage and juggle a lot of things with that type of mentality. I'm optimistic. I really am. I mean, I feel like when I entered, when the pandemic started, for me personally, I wasn't chasing the money. I was chasing the ability to create in a down market, which I've done before, but I just felt like this was another challenge. I'm like, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to slay deals, and I'm going to get buyers. I'm going to put stuff under contract. And I want to do it to prove to myself that I could create in a down market. And I feel like the trajectory has been pretty good, and we all seem to be very busy. I feel that it's going to continue to go that way. I don't see a big shift. People are just anxious to get back to work and get the kids back to school. And I feel that it's been this domino effect where people are buying on the lower end, and then that's escalating the sellers to move up their price point to buy their forever homes or their higher budget homes. So it's been this really beautiful domino effect that I'm just riding and staying optimistic. So I don't know if I answered your question, but I'm feeling pretty positive and upbeat about things.
Yeah, I reached out to a bunch of lenders to kind of get their thoughts on things, since they're the numbers people and I'm not. So I kind of trust their mentality on what they're seeing when they're analyzing everything. And the overwhelming thing that I'm hearing is that the first half of 2021 might be kind of a rough one, as a lot of things kind of go away, like the stimulus stuff goes away, a lot of forbearance stuff that might come to fruition in those first 6 months, people that lost their jobs. So we might see more distressed properties. And it might be just like a little bit of a slower time for those first 6 months as you kind of get that first 3 months of shock and then adjustment and then hit the ground running. And that's kind of what I've been hearing. I've had about 4 different lenders I spoke to kind of gave me the same kind of synopsis over what their thoughts are as they look through the economic stuff in that. So that's kind of what I was thinking, is that it's, you know, maybe first half next year, prep for it to be a little bit slower, some distress stuff. So if you have investors, I mean, that's the opportunity to work with investor clients if there's, you know, distress stuff anywhere. But it doesn't seem like it's going to be a very long thing we're going to be dealing with. Not like the housing crash where 08, 09, 10 sucked. It should be a more temporary thing this time around. But unless anyone's heard differently, that's the theme I'm hearing.
So my name is Matt, by the way, for those of you who don't know me. So I've talked to a few people, and I was part of a investment group that did this in 2008 or 2010, really. And what I'm hearing on the investment side is people are starting to create funds to go after bank notes, notes that aren't being paid that banks can't handle. You know, basically packaging them up. From what I'm hearing, people, and some of these are, you know, on the lender side, but more on the investment lending side. Their fear is not that the individual will go into foreclosure or short sale, is that the banks, because maybe the federal government or the banks itself won't want to see all these people go back into foreclosure and short sale and deal with all of that again and put it back on the books. So they may just sell off these bad loans in a package at a discount. And then whoever buys them will be, you know, servicing them and dealing with it. And then it'll be up to them whether they take it back. So you may see the foreclosures, and you probably will. But from what I'm hearing and what people have presented to me, is there's a funds that are going around to purchase these packages, and they're already starting to go after them.
Wow.
That's a good say. Dan, you're the loan guy, man. This is Dan Krucek, CrossCountry Mortgage. I'm just curious, does that kind of ring true with what you're hearing out there, what you're experiencing?
You know, in our business, there's a lot of stuff that you can hear. You know, a lot of it's wrong. Sometimes that's how I judge things. Is, you know, I read things on my industry in the paper, online, on TV, and I know how incorrect a lot of it is. So I just imagine that it's like that way with a lot of things that, you know, these people that write articles and stuff don't really know the business that well. I mean, I think it's really hard to forecast any of this stuff that might come up in the future. I mean, there's so many variables with it that, you know, you got the election in November. There could be more stimulus, less stimulus, people going back to work, more closures, more openings. So it's really tough to say. I mean, I've been doing this over 20 years and was in, you know, all the stuff in 2007. And things were changing like by the hour. So I live my life one day at a time pretty much, and try not to get too involved in the opinions or forecasting or predictions of what could happen. Because, you know, in November, that's a big one. You know, who knows what could happen after November. But right now it's crazy busy, to say the least. You know, like everybody else, just working 7 days a week and morning, nights, and everything, which is great. I feel like, you know, I'm always more organized and more efficient the busier I am. So I like being like this, because I feel like we definitely get things done a lot smoother. You can tell when things slow down, then, you know, mistakes start happening, or you're not as organized because you don't think you need to be. So I like living like this. You know, regardless of whether I'm working all 7 days or not, you know, still take time out to refresh and get organized, and especially with like working on tough deals, which, you know, there's been a lot of them lately with all kinds of this stuff coming up with people's income being down based on previous years and stuff. We're doing a lot of deals, like investment property deals that are just using the cash flow of the unit to qualify, so we don't even have to get involved in income and stuff that's down, because a lot of my clients are self-employed, and when you look at year-to-date P&Ls and stuff, a lot of those numbers are down. So there's a lot of other ways to get things done, which we've been utilizing a lot more. The tough part is that all these non-QM lenders kind of pulled back when the virus started. So you had this huge array of investors that would do all these outside the box things, and now people are asking questions on that. And it's like every deal I have to tell people, like, this is what it used to be. It used to be okay with that, but now I got to triple check it and make sure, you know, we can get the deals done. But it's also interesting seeing what's going on throughout the rest of the country, because we do loans in all 50 states, and I probably have half my deals right now are out of state. Tennessee, Missouri, Texas, Florida. So it's kind of interesting to see how this is affecting different parts of the country. But, you know, things are busy right now. Purchases are up. You know, I think the beginning of next year, we might, you know, again, who knows, because anything can happen between now and then. But, you know, if the election goes well and, you know, people start getting back to work and there's another stimulus out, I can't see rates going much lower than where they're at, because based on, you know, I watch the mortgage-backed securities every day. And when this whole virus started, there wasn't as much of a correlation between what was going on in the mortgage-backed security markets and the yields compared to rates. You know, typically when this all started and the stock market was getting hammered, you know, we should have been, you know, sub 2% in rates if you look at the indexes and the mortgage-backed securities, but they weren't moving as much because investors and lenders were controlling volume. So I think we're pretty much, I mean, this is the lowest in over 20 years I've seen rates, especially like I'm getting people at, you know, 10-year, 15-year fixed, you know, in the low twos that were on 30-year mortgages, and they're not even changing their payment much. So a lot of good coming from out of all this stuff going on, but you know, it's just hard to say. So one day at a time.
Wouldn't that keep people in their homes more and not be wanting to sell? Because why would you sell if your rate's going to go up if you're buying?
Well, I don't think rates are going to go up. I just think we're kind of at a bottom, and I think that we're going to remain here for quite a while, because you're not going to see, you know, the Fannie and Freddie, they're still purchasing these big pools of mortgage-backed securities, which that's also driving rates down as well. So I think rates will remain low for quite a while, and I'm seeing people that weren't even thinking about buying. I just had a client the other day. We just finished his refinance. He's like, I'm staying here for a long time. We're not moving. A week later, he's putting on a contract on a house in the neighborhood he liked. Because he's like, well, with a 2.5% rate, I might as well do it, you know. So, you know, you're seeing a lot of that. But I think, you know, as far as a rate perspective goes, and it's all mental, because there, you know, even from, you know, let's say 3% to 4%, there's not that much of a difference in the typical mortgage where it's going to make someone qualify and not qualify. It's just mental, where I think people are like, you know, if I want a 2.5% interest rate, 3% interest rate, I better buy something now.
Thanks, Dan. Hey, just to change gears, throwing it back at the realtors, how do you guys feel about running open houses now?
Go ahead.
No, you go ahead, Mike.
I'm not seeing much of a turnout. I think that's kind of been the issue that I've seen. A lot of my agents are hosting open houses left and right, and they're having one person come through. So I think it's From what I've seen, agents are willing to do it. They're just not getting much traffic, at least not from what I've seen. I don't know if that still makes people just skittish to go into homes with other people, like they think it's going to be packed, but I mean, I've just not seen a lot of traffic through the open houses. That's from what I've seen, at least my perspective of it.
Before this all started, were you guys having much traffic at open houses?
Depends on the season.
Depends, yeah. I just feel like, you know, when I was doing a lot of them, you know, it seems like there just wasn't much traffic coming through.
I was just gonna say, I don't think I personally would be comfortable doing an open house, like hosting one. And I don't know that I would encourage any of my team members to host one. But at the same time, I'm glad they're happening again, because every weekend, that's like all my buyers are doing. And they're asking me for a couple showings here and there, but then they're mostly going to open houses. So I feel like from a time management perspective, like it's great that they're happening again, but would I want to host one and have like random people come in? Probably not.
So we've had open houses, and I think it depends where it's located for the traffic. And I've had some very busy ones and some that have not. But what we've done for open houses, not to let it open to the world. If you have a property, and I have this big home that across the street from my house, I had arrows, and my assistant sat outside and monitored, because it's a ranch, when she saw people crossing to the other side of the house, she let somebody in, and they had to follow the arrows. We do paperless sign-in. If they don't want to give us the email, then we don't, allow them to go into the home. But if you do have a home that you think is going to grab, the buyers are out if it's a special property. Do it where they're coming the front door, direct them how to go, have them leave the back door. And it worked. Have all the gloves, they have extras in case they don't have a mask, whatever it is. But, we've been successful with them.
Barbara, you're in the suburbs, right?
No, I'm in the city. I'm in Lincoln Square.
Oh, you are in Lincoln Square, so okay. I didn't know if that was a suburb thing you're seeing, because I've heard good traffic in suburb open houses with the house being able to walk through it.
Yeah.
A lot easier as opposed to like condos and that.
Yeah, it depends on the product. You don't want to be in a 1,200 2-bedroom, 2-bath with 10 people. But if you have something that's open layout, you direct them one way and they go out the other way. But condos, it is a little tricky. Elevators, but it's single-family homes. That I have mostly single-family homes right now.
What about you, Sam?
I have not been running open houses. I do. And I do that for 2 reasons. For 3 reasons. One is to appease my sellers. Secondly, I do it because it makes it easier for the realtors to send their passive buyers to come to the open house. And then thirdly, I do it to prospect. So right now it's interesting because we kind of, as realtors, we're losing some of that prospecting aspect of picking up buyers from open houses. And then I also want to have some tricks up my sleeve to deal with my sellers, to tell them how great I am and what I'm doing to differentiate myself. So that's another reason why I was doing the open houses. Right now I haven't. A lot of my listings, thank goodness, are under contract. But I have, a handful more going to be bringing to the market, and I'm typically doing pretty much for all my listings, Matterport, high resolution photos, floor plans, and doing video walkthroughs on Zillow. I don't know if you guys advertise on Zillow or not, but I find that a lot of sellers, that's where they're gravitating towards. They're looking on Zillow, they're making sure that everything's accurate, up to date. And if you use the Matterport video, which a lot of people do, it doesn't cross over seamlessly to Zillow. So Zillow has this antiquated system where you have to do it from your cell phone and upload it. And I don't actually know how to do it, but I have a new photographer that does that for me. And then I send the link to Zillow. So now I have my walkthroughs on Zillow, and it helps promote my property for a higher ranking.
Matterport also has 3D, you can use it for 3D tours. So if you have the goggles, which we happened to have a pair that was a cardboard. They were like Google goggles. My wife got it in educational seminar, and we're actually buying a house right now in another state. And because we weren't able to tour a lot of them had Matterports, and we literally was just in our living room. We're able to walk them, and because Matterport has the ability, as you know, to measure everything, you can measure the walls and the space. I mean, it made a huge difference because when we finally walked some of them, for myself, from my knowledge, it was like very, very comparable. Like there was one that I thought we would walked the layout, and it was awful. And it made a huge difference. So like, you know, if you have some properties that, you know, maybe the sellers don't want people in, or unless they've seen something, like we got stopped at one, the buyer came out and said, have you seen the video? And we said, well, we saw the pictures. My client are still interested. He goes, I need you to watch the video before they come in. And if they're still interested, I'll let you in. And we're all standing there on the street doing it. So it's, you know, it's trying to obviously find the different ways to do it, but Matterport's been a huge success in helping.
What do you guys feel about professional property tour videos that some agents are starting doing now? I actually lost a listing because this other agent did a property video tour, and that was the only reason why they went with the other agent. I was trying to explain to the seller that doesn't really do a whole lot because, you know, that's what the Matterport's there for. But what's your guys' thoughts on those type of property tours, so to speak?
So if you have somebody like me, I call Matterports bumper cars. I prefer the videos. I hit that wall all the time. I am in the corner. So, you know, I find it, I think it just depends who you're going to reach certain people with the Matterport, and you're going to reach people like me that are not good at bumper pull and not good with the Matterport, and it just frustrates the heck out of me. So I think I would recommend you sit with your client and show two different ways of marketing, and, you know, let them pick or what you feel comfortable with. But I'm a video person. I'm not the Matterport person. I don't like it. I don't like people seeing your private stuff, your pictures of your kids that you zoom into. To me, there's security issues with it. But I do know Zillow, like you said, Sam, that is a huge plus if you do go on Zillow to have the Matterport. It's what's best for you, actually.
What's
you do
that?
Matterport for yours, Barbara?
Pardon me?
Then you don't do Matterport for yours? For your listing?
No, I don't. I can't maneuver it, so I pretend everybody's as illiterate and dumb like me. And so I want something easy, in your face. Those circles, I go in circles. So, you know what, but I think it's what is the best way you can tell your seller, you know, they don't care what you choose. It's up to you to decide what it is that you can do the spin job or the sale job on your sellers. And it's what you feel comfortable with. It's not really about anybody else, but what you feel is important. I'm gonna ask I know, Sam, you're on Zillow. Mike, I don't know if you're on Zillow. Are you noticing the people, like, are you getting a lot more buyers in this market on Zillow?
I mean, the phone rings, it ebbs and flows. You know, I'm spending a lot of money marketing on Zillow, and I have it set up where it rings to me and my team. So whoever grabs the call runs with it. And the phone, there's times where the phone's just ringing off the hook, and there's times where it's super quiet. I feel like these past weeks they've been kind of trickling in. And then I also, sometimes I'll get someone to reach out to me through my Zillow profile to talk about listing their property. So it's a tough pill to swallow because it's expensive, but my philosophy is that, you know, if I break even a couple months in a row and I land a client here or there, that'll have some residual benefits further down the road. They'll refer me to friends, family. Hopefully I can list their place when they want to sell. And I just kind of keep building my pipeline that way. But I will say that, the sellers, they want to make sure that things are tight and right with that Zillow listing. I mean, I can't tell you how many sellers are checking Zillow on a ongoing basis to make sure, where they're ranking, how many views they're getting. I'm not that proficient with Zillow, to be frank. I just work off the MLS. That's the holy grail. Like, if I'm searching for properties, I'm not going to Zillow and playing with the interface. I probably should do a better job of understanding the back end, but most consumers are pretty proficient with Zillow. And if I'm working with buyers, a lot of times I'll tell my buyers that if you're out surfing the websites like Zillow and Trulia and you find something on your own, please let me know so I can make sure that you're not seeing a parking space, advertised for 20 grand, but it appears that it's a $2 million house in Lincoln Park, because there's a lot of discrepancies. So I always try to plant the seeds, because a lot of buyers potentially can go rogue and find something on their own, to kind of subconsciously bring it back to me. Whatever you guys find online, make sure that you send me the information so I can properly vet it, set up the appointment, etc. So just from experience, buyers can slip away that way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm just seeing like my listings are set up so I get notified how many people have viewed it. So that's I get those reports daily, and the sellers do too. And the sellers are looking at it. They can see how many people have viewed it, how many people have clicked interested in it. I mean, there's so many analytics behind it now that they can view that. And I've had actually one of my listings, my seller, we haven't had a ton of showings, but he sees these every single day, and he's like, I don't understand, why are we getting no showings when there's 30 people looking at it a day? So he's not basically mad that we're not getting a ton of showings, because he sees the interest there. So it's kind of helped me calm him down a little bit and tell him not BSing. There's a lot of traffic, just not a lot of showings. But I mean, that's how tech savvy people are now. They're going to find those reports and they're going to be looking at them left and right. So we have to kind of know what they are. That's why I set them up for myself as well. But
what are people doing to keep their pipeline flush for the fall and the winter and early 21? I'm curious. Or are they just head in the sand right now to make hay while the sun shines?
My biggest thing has been teaching webinars, which I've taught in-person seminars on how to buy a condo for the past 5 years or so. And then when everything happened in March, we had to pivot and figure out another way to do things. And so we started doing a webinar, and that's been honestly amazing and maybe one of the greatest gifts of the pandemic, because I just gotten better RSVPs and just more interest in the webinar than I ever really got with the in-person one. And I think it's something where even in a year when things are better, I feel like we'll probably still do webinars. It's easier and cheaper, and it's less pressure and stage fright for me. So yeah, I think that definitely has been filling our pipeline, but also is a really awesome thing that I didn't expect to come out of this.
It's cool.
I'm still a big proponent of old school database management as much as possible and marketing to them. And I think if anyone stopped doing that because of COVID, that's a huge mistake, because those are the clients you want, those referral clients from your past clients to use you again. It's just so much easier to work with people instead of something cold, getting a cold lead from Zillow. So I tell all the agents in the office, if you're not consistently hitting your database up at least 30 times a year, which really is not difficult to do. I mean, I think I spend maybe 30 to 45 minutes a month on my database. and I'm constantly getting referrals. And I've done it for a long time, so it's helped. But anyone that's even just getting started, that's the first thing I tell them is build a database, market to it, and that's how you'll sustain a business over the long haul. So hopefully everyone was still doing that during COVID to set themselves up. Then I think you incorporate the social media piece into that too, and have a consistent kind of game plan with that to kind of help, further the brand, further your message, further your marketing, and getting the name out there. That's one of the biggest things about what we do is we're essentially, our names are our brand. So the more we can hit our people up on a regular basis, the more they're going to think about us. So I think it's really it's basic, comes down to those two things. And then anything additional to that, like a Zillow or, even like the webinar type stuff, I mean, that's like a bonus on top of the core business to kind of fill the gaps that you might have if you slowed down. I think those are brilliant ideas, but I still go back to the database all day, every day. And just, if you feed that, that'll feed you. That's kind of how I look at it.
Yeah, my, definitely the database. I mean, that's probably has to be for sure where most of my business comes from. And I even tell other guys that I work with that, they might think like some of the emails are cheesy or whatever, but every time something goes out, it's guaranteed I'm getting at least one deal from that. And most of that stuff is all automated, at least for my marketing department and stuff. And I've spent the last few years really doing my social media a lot more. And I'll tell you what, that's probably the one thing that's taken me the longest to start converting from. And it seems like just this year, like I really started converting with being a little more aggressive on it and just telling people, shoot me a message. I'm in a lot of groups where people are like, hey, I can't get this done. So I jump on that and tell them right away, send me a message. So it really helps out. I mean, it's not a big percentage of my deals, but it's a new source for, 1 or 2 deals a month to get from somewhere where I wasn't getting from before.
Cool. Sam, you got anything?
For me, one thing I do every year is I just do client gifts around Christmas time. So I'll send out custom coffee bags with with my insignia, my company's insignia, and just kind of like my message of my company's philosophy, just how we're white glove and boutique and taking care of clients. And, that's something I've done consistently for forever. And that's something I'll continue to do. And it's just a nice touch point, not expecting anything in return. Just, hey, thinking about you, wishing you the best, and enjoy a little gift on me.
That's cool. I love it. It's simple is good. Yeah.
I think what's happened with this virus, because I have a hard time calling somebody thinking that, I don't want them to think that I just am looking for a business, but with this environment, it made it easy to say, hey, I'm thinking of you, just checking in, hope the family's well. In the beginning, I went and I had access to the heavy duty masks. So I called and I said, I have these N95 masks. I'd love to drop some off to your house. They're in a bag and they were already sealed. So I would give my clients 5 of them. And it was much easier during this time for me to make these calls because I wasn't talking real estate. I was talking safety. And it got me used to being on the phone on a more regular basis. So that's what I have been doing, just not real estate related, just checking in. How's the family? How are you surviving this? Hopefully everybody is okay. And, you got to take, and this sounds terrible, but it's a bad situation right now. And you got to do the flip and the spin for how does it feed into your real estate so that they think you care about them. And you do care about them, but you wouldn't call them during the week and just say, hey, how you doing? Or you wouldn't look at your sphere and say, how are you doing? You'd pick and choose. And in this, it was very easy to go through some of my top clients to say I really care. And my marketing is geared towards the pandemic. I have something that says, we help you move safely. You know, I didn't do just listed, just sold cards like I normally do. I did things that were more geared towards, you know, how can we help you during this time? So I did subliminal marketing.
Well, and also too, just as a testament, I remember, Barbara, you had reached out to me, and we had somebody who gave us masks, and I think I and I appreciated that. And I think I took a selfie with my Cubs mask on and sent it back to you. So if you're going to give it to someone else, I obviously don't want to take it, but yeah, I mean,
No, it was
yeah.
just, I really went through and I went and thought, you know, it wasn't like, so I'm so grateful to you, Andy. You've opened up this opportunity for all of us. We don't work in the same office, but we're able to act like we work in the same office by picking one another's brain. And that's how this whole industry should be, with the lenders, with the attorneys, with the insurance people, because that's how we learn. And we're grateful for what you do. And you were one of the first people. It's like, you have been so good to me. And, you know, that's how I looked at it. Who are the people that I really care about and that are, you know, important to me, that this is, and I want to make sure that they're taken care of. And there were brokers I gave it to, you know, it wasn't just clients, but it made, what I have found, it made it easier for me to get on the phone with my clients, because I may be personable and bubbly and a little ditzy. And I found that I'm not that person who calls on the phone, because sometimes I think, okay, that could be genuine, or it could be perceived as, oh, salesmanship, or so it's a nice time to let people know you care about them. And
yeah, we did that, Barbara, at State Farm. Like, that was basically when we are all working from home. It was the biggest thing that we did, was just call each of our clients as many as we could and just say, hey, how are you doing? Is there anything we can help you with? And it wasn't a sale, but just the response we got from that was better than any marketing that we could have done as an office, right?
Just taking the step, which is cool. Thanks for sharing that, Eric. That's cool. I mean, it's a lot of times it's just, hey, I care. And if something comes out of it, cool. If not, you know, at least you kind of, you know, people know you still exist and you're reaching out, versus, you know, than just trying to get something out of it. So yeah, I just, you know, I appreciated it. I mean, I want to be respectful of everybody's time. Hey, does everybody mind smiling real fast? Hold on, I'm gonna take a fun screenshot. And 1, 2, 3. Let me see. I think that actually, I think that was a winner. Actually, it turned out pretty good. Matt left, so he doesn't get in the screenshot. No, well, I'll send the link out to this, and you know, if everybody's email info, if everybody wants to connect after. One thing I will share, which I'm pumped about, I don't think I texted Melanie this, because I think out of all of us, I'd say you're probably the most tech savvy person. But we are excited that I'm going to try to get this to screen share on my iPad right now. Hold on here. Can everybody see that? It'll be blurry, but okay. Everybody see this?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, we finally launched our app. This is actually a screenshot from the whatever issue we just did. It all runs together to me. We're like 2 months ahead, so a lot of the stuff, my brain. This is from the July issue. So if you go to Digipub, choose Illinois, Chicago Real Producers, you can kind of play with the app. This is just, you know, it's pretty cool. Has all the partners on there. Has all the past issues. You can go through all the past issues, you know, every time people, because Real Producers, it's designed to be a private publication for the top 500 agents. So we want to keep those people connected, because essentially those are the people who do the most business in the city. And it is designed to, I got to take that August. I gotta take this one out of here. I don't know why this one is still on here. That one, we got to take that guy out there. I don't know. That's a cheap shot, I know. But anyway, so we want you to kind of play with it. And if there's bugs, which there probably will be, just email me. You know, it's technically, it is still free for realtors and all the partners. So if you download it on your phone, it'll be free forever until they start charging for it. But we wanted kind of a soft launch, so we're not like blast doing this for, you know, everybody. But you know, play with it. If there's any, hey, I touched this link and it didn't work, you know, just draw it to my attention. We'll figure it out. I'll be sure to take August 2018, that cover, that guy, whoever that guy is, out of there. But no, we appreciate everybody's involvement, and I'll cut it off. If you're interested in getting on another one of these, I'm probably going to set another one of these up for maybe August, so we can get different agents on there, different partners, just to kind of collaborate again. But hopefully everybody got some value out of it, picked up some tips, and you will be the first to know when the in-person events resume, because people have been asking me, but I mean, obviously that depends on the city. So that is it. I appreciate everybody's time. Sell lots of real estate, and we'll chat soon.
Thanks, Andy.
Bye-bye. Have a
Bye.
good
Take care.
Thank you.
Bye, Nathan.
Adios.
Bye, Barbara.